I said I was only going to do like one mock draft a month. I should have known better. I shouldn't even have said that. As you can tell, I've done another first round mock draft for the 2013 NFL Draft. The results of that are in the description box down below. I can say for certain, though, is that it probably will still be at least another month, maybe more, before I start doing 2, 3, 4 round mock drafts. Right now, it's a lot easier to just do the one round, especially since we haven't gotten to the combines, we haven't gotten to free agency, we haven't gotten to the pro days, we haven't gotten to the individual workouts, none of that. But there are a few things you'll notice here in this 2013 NFL mock draft in the description box below. Number one is you'll notice this time I have 4 quarterbacks going in round 1. I'm projecting that guys like Barkley and Glennon are going to work out well at the combine and at pro days and individual workouts and get quarterback-hungry teams potentially like Arizona and Buffalo to maybe reach on them a little bit. I compare this quarterback class a lot, not to 2012, because that class was flat-out better, but like the 2011 class where you had Cam Newton, you had Jake Locker, you had Blaine Gabbert, you had Christian Ponder, you had 4 quarterbacks that were probably all going to potentially go in the first round, but you weren't really sure where. And once you saw that these teams really were quarterback hungry, you had Cam Newton go 1, Jake Locker go 8, you had Blaine Gabbert go 10 for some fucking reason, Christian Ponder go 12 to Minnesota. And I think we could potentially see a similar scenario bear out here, at least with the top 3 quarterbacks in this class. So Geno Smith going number 1. I still think Kansas City has to go quarterback number 1. I still think they have to, at least at this time. And I've got quarterbacks going to Arizona at 7, Buffalo at 8. And then you'll notice it's kind of odd. You'll see me having E.J. Manuel from Florida State going to Chicago at number 20. Now, of course, that's me in part saying the Bears need to draft a quarterback in this draft, which they do. Whether that's a first round or not, I don't know. But that's more of an indication of me, since I'm not mocking any trades at this current time, of saying this is where potentially, if there was to be a 4th quarterback to go in this first round, where they would go. And that's just me strictly taking a guess and saying which quarterback it would most likely be that somebody would want to trade up into that spot where the Bears are in order to take them. And looking at E.J. Manuel. So you'll notice some big risers in my mock draft. Ezekiel Ansah I've got going 3rd, the defensive end from BYU. I actually think he could play outside linebacker in a 3-4 and be really a force. And then look at Oakland, whether they're going to play 4-3 or 3-4. Ezekiel Ansah would immediately become their most talented pass rusher that they have. It would be a significant upgrade over everything they have in their defensive line, their linebacking core, whatever the hell. Kenny Vaccaro, the safety from Texas. Somebody's probably going to take this kid in the top 10, more likely than not, unless he works out very poorly at the combine in his pro days, or another safety really just comes and shoots up the boards. You would expect, similar to what happened with Mark Barron last year, teams got hungry for a safety, and Tampa Bay took him at number 7. Vaccaro could go maybe, at the very highest, number 5 to Detroit, God knows, or he could go somewhere like number 9 to the Jets, number 10 to the Titans, number 12 to the Dolphins. I would be very surprised if Vaccaro didn't go somewhere in the top 12 picks. The absolute farthest I would anticipate him probably dropping would be either number 17 to Pittsburgh or number 18 to Dallas. So at this point in time, it's a very good time to be Kenny Vaccaro, the safety from Texas. Sharif Floyd is a guy that I think is going to continue to jump up draft boards. Could potentially be one of those players that sneaks into the top 10 of this draft, but right now I have him mocked going number 12 to the Dolphins. And then Desmond Trufant, the corner from Washington. I think his Senior Bowl took him from being a guy that was viewed as a 2nd or 3rd round prospect to being a end of 1st round prospect. And with a good combine, a good pro day, he could potentially shoot up and challenge a Jonathan Banks to be the number 2 corner taken. And teams are always looking for corners because it's incredibly expensive to acquire corners in the trade market or in the free agent market. Ask the freaking Philadelphia Eagles how that works out. And just when you acquire them in trade or free agency, it doesn't mean it always works out. Again, ask the Philadelphia Eagles. As a result, a guy like Desmond Trufant, if he continues to have a good pre-draft process, could really shoot himself up all the way maybe to Tampa Bay at number 13, even though I have him at the bottom of the 1st round right now. You've got some guys I think are going to fall too. Keenan Allen, the wide receiver from California, I think is a guy that a lot of scouts and general managers are going to look at and say, we see him as a number 2, but we don't really see him as a number 1. Do we really want to spend a mid-1st round pick on a guy who might not ever develop into a number 1 wide receiver? And that's a legitimate question. He might not have the most upside at that position in this draft. He could drop a little bit. I don't know that he'll drop out of the first round, but I think he drops into the bottom portion of round 1. And then you've got pass rushers like Damontre Moore and Jarvis Jones. Jarvis Jones, I think, is going to drop a little bit because of concerns over the spinal stenosis and the fact that he's not the biggest guy in the world. Some people are going to look at him and see Von Miller. But again, when we're talking about the combine process, if he doesn't work out particularly well there, his stock could plummet. I remember a few years ago, one guy that was being talked about as a top 5 pick was Michael Johnson, the defensive end from Georgia Tech. By the time we got to that draft, he went in the 3rd round of the Cincinnati Bengals. So don't tell me it can't happen, because anything is possible. We see these type of rises and falls happen all the time. Same thing with Damontre Moore. I've watched a little bit of him so far and haven't been incredibly impressed. Just don't think that he's an incredibly explosive outside edge rusher. I really don't. And I question his motor a little bit. I think he projects better as a 3-4 outside linebacker. But this is a draft, again, that is very deep and very loaded at that position. And some teams may say, we like this guy because he's bigger at that position, like Ezekiel Ansah. We think that a Deion Jordan or a Barkevious Mingo is a better athlete at the position than Damontre Moore. And he could end up potentially dropping. I'm not going to say he's going to drop out of round 1. I think the farthest he would probably drop would be either to the Saints at 15 or the Steelers at 17. But there's a possibility that a guy like him could drop. Again, I bring up the Michael Johnson scenario. Anything is possible. As far as players to watch in this draft, Cordarrelle Patterson, the wide receiver from Tennessee. He's probably the one guy that most people feel has number 1 wide receiver potential. And with that being said, that gives him the best chance to really shoot up draft boards. I think there's a strong chance he could potentially be taken in the top 10, maybe as high as Cleveland at number 6, Buffalo at number 8, the Jets at number 9. I think the farthest he would potentially drop would be pick 12, pick 14, pick 16. He's probably guaranteed at this point, unless he just bombs the draft process, he's guaranteed being no worse than a mid-first round pick and could go much higher. And like I said, every year there's always that 1 or 2 teams in the top 10, somewhere between 6 and 10, that has a pick that just completely comes out of the blue and totally stuns your ass. It always happens every effing year. Every year. Tyson Alualu, number 10 to Jacksonville in 2010. When they traded up a ton to get Derek Harvey. I'm just saying. Eric Fisher, the offensive tackle from Central Michigan, is a guy that I think you're going to hear more buzz about, potentially overtaking Luke Joeckel as the number 1 left tackle in this draft. Doesn't mean I agree with it or don't agree with it. But again, that's just the nature of the beast, and that's how the draft process works. And remember, again, it only takes one team to fall in love with the player, and they could potentially view Fisher as a better athlete at that position, and somebody could take him over Luke Joeckel. It could happen. Lane Johnson, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Teams are desperately looking for left tackles because they view that as an incredibly important position on their football team. And as a result, if you've got a Joeckel, let's say, goes 5, and an Eric Fisher goes somewhere between pick 7 and pick 11, just for example, there's going to be other teams within the draft, whether that be the Miami Dolphins or the San Diego Chargers at 11, the Carolina Panthers at 14, the St. Louis Rams at 16, the Giants at 19, the Bears at 20. Somebody's going to want an offensive tackle, and somebody, because of that need is going to fool them into elevating a player higher up the draft board than maybe he belongs, which is where Lane Johnson is potentially set up to do very, very well for himself, especially if he runs a fast 40 time and works out like a beast at the combine. He's going to be a mid-first round pick more likely than not. And one other flyer at this point in time I'll throw out there is Margus Hunt, the defensive end from SMU. He's a guy that he's about, 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", 280 pounds, give or take a little bit. When you look at him, you see a guy that teams are going to be looking for a J.J. Watt type, a Justin Smith type of 3-4 defensive end. And you could just get that sense that teams are going to sit there and maybe out-sleuth themselves and outthink themselves and say that this Margus Hunt kid is going to be a guy that we think could be that type of player because of his freakish athleticism and size. And as a result, that's why I have Margus Hunt mocked to go to San Francisco at pick number 31 in this mock draft. Because I think somebody is going to bite on this guy late in the first round, especially if he goes and he really impresses at the combine and at his pro day and his individual workouts. We've got a lot of stuff over the next couple of months that still has to play out. A lot of changes are going to come. And I'll even guarantee a month from now, after a few more mock drafts, when free agency has actually started, we have some significant changes happen to my mock drafts. I can guarantee that. But this is kind of where I'm sitting at right now. This is a mock draft in the description box below that you see that's based off of 4 quarterbacks going in round 1, having some guys really work out well in the process of the next couple months, and some guys fall because they don't work out so well in the process the next couple of months.